Honda Civic is fast, reliable, fun to drive, and probably the first taste of a sports car for the mass market. As grand as its success now, the car in its early stages had a mediocre reception in the market. But it grew on people, particularly on the youth back then in the early 70s. If you are a fan of the Honda Civic, this video will be a treat for you. Here's everything you should know about the Honda Civic, the common man's sports car. Honda started as a bicycle auxiliary engine builder in a tiny factory in Hamamatsu in 1948. It was the Japanese first automobile manufacturer, but the company failed to cash in the early advantage. Before Civic, Honda used to sell cars with a two-cylinder motorcycle engines. In 1963, Honda introduced its N360 mini car. The car had a transverse-mounted front engine. The same layout was adapted for the Honda 1300 1970. Both the cars were failures. They were heavy and hard to drive with no comfort or cabin space. The failure forced Honda's management and engineers to rethink their strategy, which was to make things simple. During the initial project discussions, Soichiro Honda, founder of Honda, Masami Suzuki, GM of R&D at Honda, discussed, argued, and fought in the meeting rooms to give a shape to their new car. The project was named Civic. Civic means the car created for citizens and cities. The idea was to make a compact, spacious, and lightweight car under 600 kilograms. Back then, even the smallest two-cylinder Honda cars weighed around 500 kgs and the Honda 13 was around 800 kgs. Slowly, Honda Civic got into shape of a hatchback and came with a revolutionary strut system suspension setup and a big powered engine. It was the first generation Honda Civic released in 1972. It was not an instant success after its release. The team was scared as Honda had heavily relied on Civic sales both for financial and reputational needs. But things started working when Honda exported cars to American soil in 1973. The youth in America loved the car. The straight lines and funkier design appealed to them. The 1100cc 50 horses engine was more than enough for Civic to become a household daily driver powerhouse. The CVCC, which is also known as Compound Vortex Controlled Combustion Engine, was fuel efficient and was running both on leaded and unleaded petrol. Everything fell into place for the car, indicating its great success in the times to come. Second generation Honda Civic. The second generation debuted in 1979. The car became larger, had a more angular shape, and came with increased engine power. All Civic engines now use CVCC engine, and this particular generation debuted with two engine options, a 1300 and a 1500. Three transmissions were offered, a 4-speed manual on base models, a 5-speed manual, and a 2-speed semi-automatic Honda had previously called Honda-matic. The second generation Civic was offered as a 3-door hatchback, a 4-door sedan, a 5-door hatchback, and a 5-door wagon. The third generation Civic was released in September 1983. Civic saw the introduction of long-running 4-cylinder D-series engine, including a new 1.5-liter CVCC engine producing 76 horsepower. The year 1984 also saw the release of a high-performance SI model for the Japanese market, featuring upgraded suspension and the 1.6-liter DOHC ZC engine. Fifth generation Civic. In 1987, a completely redesigned Civic was introduced with increased dimensions and a lower hood line. A wide range of models and trims were offered, featuring a 1.6-liter DOHC VTEC 4-cylinder engine. All US models featured electronic fuel injection, but carbureted models were available in other markets. The fourth generation saw the introduction of a fully independent rear suspension across the trims. Fifth generation Civic. Introduced in 1991, the redesigned Civic featured increased dimensions and more aerodynamic styling, a long hatch about to turn into a sedan. The fifth generation remains popular even today among tuners and racers. Introduced in 1995, the sixth generation featured updated styling, although less radical than previous redesigns. Suspension and engine options were available along with their first naturally gas-powered Civic, the GX. All base models were made with 1.6-liter 4-cylinder engine. The EX and CX are all SOHC producing 127 horses. 7th generation Civic. The 7th generation Civic was released in September 2000. While the redesign retained the previous generation's exterior dimensions, interior space was improved in part by using a flat rear floor, thus bumping up Civic to a compact size segment. Type-R was redesigned this time using a more powerful IB-Tech engine and using three-door hatchback body style. This generation saw Honda introduce their first Civic hybrid powered by a 1.3-liter engine. Eighth generation. Here comes the main part. The Honda Civic comes to Bharat 34 years after its birth, only to live a short life from 2006 to 12. Honda Civic had a bumpy ride in India despite its enormous fan base. The car had a piece for everyone from sedate drivers to mile-munching racers on a highway. Most importantly, people bought this car after getting sold for its looks. It was a head-turner. The car looked amazing in any angle you look at it. Civic came to India with a 1.8-liter petrol engine that produced 132 horses and 172 nanometers of torque. The only complaints we had were the low-sunk stance of the sedan that used to scrape almost every speed breaker on the road. Too bad Honda pulled the plug off the Civic in 2012. It was launched in 2019 again but failed to regain its charm and glory. The old Civic is still so popular in Indian market even after 10 years that there is a huge demand for a well-maintained pre-worshipped car. It's a car that made a guest appearance in Indian car scene and stole the complete show. The 10th generation Civic features a new fastback exterior design with the rear C-pillar flowing into the tailgate. The front of the car features a new chrome wing design that flows across the top of the headlamps. The Type R broke the Volkswagen's Golf GT record to become the fastest front-wheel drive hatch ever produced. The final 11th generation Honda Civic. The 11th generation Civic sedan was revealed as a prototype in November 2020. The model received mixed responses from its fan base. Some liked the sharper looks and some didn't. No matter how many cars we get to see, they wouldn't be anything like the Civic. From facing the rejections in the design stage itself to experiencing low sales numbers, the car went through a dramatic high over the past 50 years. Let's hope it remains a benchmark in the times to come.